Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are taking a look at quite possibly one of the most ridiculous looking figures that has ever existed, and this is by Chap Mei, and this is the Carnotaurus. It is ridiculous looking, but it's a Carnotaurus, so you just had to know I'd buy it eventually. So I recently found this guy on eBay. I've actually been eyeing him up for a while on eBay from many different sellers, but never really pulled the trigger just due to the fact that he's really ugly looking. But it's a Carnotaurus, so I couldn't help myself. Now that I got it in the mail, I actually really quite like it, even though it's obviously nowhere near a scientifically accurate Carnotaurus. And in fact, this is so far out there that he almost looks like an alien Carnotaurus hybrid. But since I did eventually pull the trigger, I now have it here. I figured maybe some of you would be interested in taking a look at it with me, so let's get a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the skin texture looks pretty decent here in the palate area, and you've got some nice kind of osteoderm-like scales right there, and some much larger scales here in the rear of the head. The color scheme is potentially a somewhat sort of realistic color scheme, something that's not too out of the realm of reality for a Carnotaurus. You see the nostrils are sculpted out pretty nicely right there. The teeth are definitely very large, very bulky, and kind of look pretty bad, but at the same time they definitely have some sort of decent paint. I mean, it's not super sloppy. You can see that it doesn't run up onto the gums or anything really badly. But at the same time, the teeth are so ridiculous looking. The tongue actually has a very cool translucency to it, which looks really interesting, and also has a nice shine as far as it being almost glossy looking, which does help for a slight bit of realism on an otherwise completely unrealistic dinosaur toy. You can see that those trademark Carnotaurus horns are as exaggerated as they could possibly be, and just look completely insane. But they're painted with a nice blackish coloration and dry brushed with like a goldish brown, which I think does help to give it somewhat of a realistic look, and that's the same style that you see as you run back along the neck with those very trademark Carnotaurus bumps and spikes that you see. I think they look really cool due to that kind of goldish brown paint that they've dry brushed over it, and that does help the likeness factor of this figure, at least for me anyway. You can see that the eyes are pretty much black at this point with a nice yellowish type of a pupil, and the reason the eyes are black is because if we want to hear the roar and see the lights, you can see that the eyes do light up there, so it kind of gives it a pretty cool, evil, almost demon-like appearance to it. We'll look at that again here in a little bit with the lights off and see the lights of the eyes light up a little bit better. As we run along the neck, you can see some very nice, very large scaling going on there. Not exactly what you would see on a real Carnotaurus, but again, this is pretty much like a space alien type Carnotaurus. You can even see some nice detail there on the skin flap on the inside of the mouth, which I did not mention before. Some very nice skin folding and wrinkling going on here in the lower part of the throat. You get all sorts of like osteoderms and stuff all over the dinosaur, and the skin texture looks okay. I mean, sort of, for what it is, I guess. As you move down into the arms, you can see that the Carnotaurus arms are not even remotely similar to what a real Carnotaurus's arms would look like, but you can see that he has been heavily working out and is extremely muscular in the arm department. The actual sculpt and detail of the arms and hands does look really nice. It is really beautifully sculpted, but again doesn't look even remotely close to what a Carnotaurus's arms would actually look like. Unfortunately, there are no painted nails, but that's not really anything new when it comes to most companies. Here is the area kind of where you'll hear the sound from the Carnotaurus, and it's interestingly enough been given kind of like a slit type of an appearance, like a dinosaur, maybe another Carnotaurus for instance, gave it a slice across the stomach, and that was like their sneaky, shady way to put the area where you hear the sound, and that does look really neat. I actually do think that's a pretty cool idea. You can see some more osteoderms and everything up here. Very, very large, like scoots and everything here on the leg. Beautiful muscle tone. Again, just like the arms, the legs are jacked, so he's been definitely heavily hitting the gym on whatever crazy planet this Carnotaurus has come from. Very large calf muscles. You can see the knees are pretty nicely sculpted out there. The feet are extremely oversized, kind of Mattel-like oversized feet, but they do actually sport some pretty darn nice detail and sculpt, I will say. I think the legs and feet and the arms, even though obviously I've said it 1,000 times, don't look like a Carnotaurus, but they do still look really nice. I think they're probably my favorite part as far as the sculpt goes, because there's just so much sculpt and detail in them. You can even see the dew claw over there really quite nicely. And then as we run up here, you can see some more skin folding going on right behind the leg as we move out into the tail. Pick up on these very large Carnotaurus kind of bumps and spikes that you see all over the place. The tail is extremely short. Unfortunately, we didn't get that same style of paint that we got up here. Back here with that dry brushing, I think that would have looked really nice. But other than the green, there is no paint out there on the tail at all. And then the underside, you can see, also has some really large type scaling, almost similar to a crocodile. The opposing side, you can see those Hasbro-like screw holes, but Chap Mei has never really been known to produce high quality figures, just kind of fun figures, and that's pretty much what you see here with this Carnotaurus. Even though it doesn't at all have any type of scientific accuracy to it, it's still pretty fun for a completely crazy space alien Carnotaurus. Now with the lights off a little bit, we should be able to get a better idea of the actual eyes lighting up. And now you can see that the tongue also lights up. But it does look cool like that. I will definitely give it its props when it comes to it looking pretty decent. And now it's not working. There we go. That definitely looks really cool. I will say that. So that's another cool factor of this off-the-wall Carnotaurus. As far as articulation goes, you can see that you do have the articulated jaw. You also have articulation in the arms, the legs, and they all move really easily. And then the tail has a little bit of articulation, but that's just simply because if you turn it and pull it out, the tail does come off if I don't drop it. So you can connect the tail back on, and it sits on there quite nicely. As far as the size goes on our crazy Carnotaurus, from the tail to the head, you are looking at just a hair under 12 inches or 30 centimeters, actually about 30.5 centimeters. For a height, the highest point, if we get him standing up straight, or what I would think would be about a good height for a Carnotaurus, about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is our buddy the green Papo T-Rex, and you should now be able to tell that this Carnotaurus is pretty large, definitely a very large figure when it comes to a crazy dinosaur figure, and the Papo Rex standing next to him almost looks to be similar in size, just not quite as far as the proportions go, but they're pretty darn close as far as size, but the Carnotaurus is a little bit bigger than the Papo Rex, proving that the Carnotaurus is a pretty darn big figure. So if you are looking for an extremely cool, very scientifically accurate Carnotaurus, for the love of God, look somewhere else. But if you are looking for a crazy, off-the-wall, completely insane space alien mutant hybrid Carnotaurus from another dimension, then this ridiculous Chap Mei Carnotaurus might be your guy. I personally do really quite like him just because it's a Carnotaurus. I kind of have to. The sculpt work is alright, it's pretty decent. It almost kind of reminds me of the Primal Clash figures, even though those aren't quite as off-the-wall as this. But it has a very similar style and similar feel to it. Kind of like the Lioplurodon didn't really look at all like a Lioplurodon. It was kind of an off-the-wall type version. Well, that's sort of what you see here with this Carnotaurus from Chap Mei. It's definitely an off-the-wall version, but at the same time it has its charm. It definitely has a very fun feel to it, and I really do quite like it actually, even though it's pretty darn ugly. I definitely really quite dig the light up effect of the eyes, which is something that you almost never hear me say, because Terabybitat's newer, larger plastic figures have a similar deal where their eyes light up, and I really don't like it on them at all. But for some reason I do quite like it on this Carnotaurus. The paint application is alright, it looks pretty fun, something that could potentially be a color scheme I could see a Carnotaurus being in, and it's all applied fairly natural looking. So overall, it's a decent figure, not at all a scientifically accurate Carnotaurus, but a fun, crazy Carnotaurus nonetheless. So if you do want to buy one of these, they're really not that expensive. You can find them pretty much littered all over eBay, but I will put a link in the description to one on eBay that I can find for you guys, the cheapest one possible. So if you are interested, check the description, go pick up this completely insane Carnotaurus. But before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.